These are samples, my first edition of my samples I made, and I have actually selected these purely based on the materials that were used in the process, but also for the colour palette, because again it's a colour palette that I've never really considered before in using, not particularly this one, but you'll see the other samples are different in their colour palette, and again the colour palette wasn't selected, it just happened. Now the one good thing about these samples, because I use methods of stitch, you can actually turn the samples over. Each sample is very different on the front and the reverse, and you will also see with these samples I've actually attached them to small frames which were actually found in paper lanterns, and that's what keeps the paper lantern together. The idea behind these small metal structures is that I want to play with the idea of movement with the samples to see how the samples will interact with movement, and I'm also going to consider sound and movement with the samples. Now the sound and the movement of these samples is going to be generated from the theme that I used of either the roadside, where I collected and found materials and objects, or from the canal side, where materials and objects were found. But again, the first edition of these samples, materials were found in and around the house and in storage space up in the loft.